So this is a review of Abducted, but before we get into it, I just want to mention that I've been wanting to review this level basically since it came out, but I had to put it off because, and I'll talk about it later in the video, I don't have a lot to say about it, but I will mention it. The creator of this level got a ton of hate that extended so bad that it hit the creator of the song as well, which is really weird, and you shouldn't do that. And it's especially weird because of all levels that it could happen with, it's this one. Which, like, it's not a bad level, especially when you compare it to how much worse other levels in the Gauntlets are. But the point is, the reason this review took me so long to do is I had to put it off because I was waiting for the heat to die down, and I didn't want to potentially spark the flames with any more criticism, and on top of that, I like this level, and I knew that if I reviewed it back then, it just wouldn't go over well. This video would be ridiculously controversial, but I think at this point the heat's died down enough to where people will at least hear what I have to say, and it'll be, you know, a normal video that won't be embroiled in controversy, so yeah, but that's why this review took so long, and I apologize for that. Abducted is the first level of the Space Gauntlet. I don't know if it's the winner or whatever, I don't really pay attention to the contests themselves, but I know it's the first one that you play when you go through the gauntlets. It's the first of the Space Gauntlet entries, and this, in my opinion, is the best one. This level has some amazing decoration, and I genuinely think that it's impressive to see how far decoration is being pushed in this game, to where stuff like this is just kind of casually pushed out for a gauntlet contest. It's pretty cool. Space as an aesthetic is a very hard aesthetic to get right, in my opinion, because a lot of creators are very tempted to go for the sort of glossy, generic black and purple style that Cosmos by Cherry Team kind of popularized. And while I think Cosmos worked, when you have a bunch of levels that try to copy that style and kind of miss the point, what you end up with is the 2.2 equivalent of 2.1 generic glow, and I find that a lot of the contest entries for the Space Gauntlet ended up falling into that camp for me. Not all of them, but a couple of them at the very least just have that sort of... They're not generic, because they are really well made, but they have that sort of forgettable, just not... Like you could do so much more with the space aesthetic, is what I think I'm trying to say. Abducted, in my opinion, is proof that you can do a lot with this aesthetic, because rather than just sticking to the generic space style that's been done to death, this level goes for a full-fledged story-esque theme, with the whole idea of this level being that you get abducted by aliens, but the aliens are actually really cool, and you end up playing a bunch of games with them and shit, and it's just a, like, kind of quirky level. It actually kind of reminds me a lot of Boogie, the event level, except unlike Boogie, it is executed way better, way more coherently, because this level actually runs a lot better than Boogie, in my opinion. It doesn't lag nearly as much. That being said, it is still a very high detail level, and it is still very laggy, so there might be some players that have a hard time running it. But in general, I just love the coherency with this level. It's just got like an onslaught of chaotic visuals and random shit going on, and it's done in a very satisfying way. Now, admittedly, it's not done perfectly, and there are some things that I really don't like about this level. First of all, let's talk about the coin. The coin in this level is kind of garbage. I've seen a lot of people talk about this coin and talk about why it's bad, but I don't think people hate it for the same reason I do. That doesn't mean their hatred is invalid, because a lot of people just hate it because it's an overcomplicated coin. I don't necessarily care, because if a coin's annoying to collect, I just won't collect it, right? Like, I don't care. And normally, I wouldn't critique a coin at all. If the coin's bad, just don't collect it. But I want to focus on this coin because of just how much of a missed opportunity it honestly is, because there is a much simpler idea than what this level presents that would have been way better. To explain why I don't like this coin, we have to start by simply explaining how it works, and we're in for a real doozy here. So the way this coin actually works is there's a coin route hidden at the end like you would normally expect, one of those fall into a hidden path coins, and it seems really straightforward, except for this dickhead decides to pop up with some dialogue boxes that, admittedly, this is rather cool. You actually have to close them by clicking like it's an RPG. I kind of like that. But this dickhead shows up and he's like, hey, do you need the password? So how do you get the password? Well, at the beginning of the level at 10%, there's a randomized number. The number, from what I understand, I think is different every attempt, but whatever that number is, in the rhythm game part, you need to score that number in order for him to let you through. And this sucks. First of all, it's a pain in the ass to actually score the amount they want you to, because the points you earn for hitting each individual note are not in increments of 1, 2, or whatever like you'd expect. It's in increments of 2, 5, 10, 20, 100, and 500. I think there might be 50 as well. I'm not totally sure, but just like random big numbers like that. And when you're trying to score a number like 89, keeping in mind, by the way, that the amount you need to score is randomized, yeah, this coin is bullshit. It's not good. On top of that, you see 2 icons and 2 note lines, right? So that almost makes you think, okay, this is going to be a 2-player mode level, and you have to click with 2 players to hit both sides of the notes. No, they're both 1 input. It doesn't matter which input you hit. If you just hit an input, it'll hit whichever one has a note approaching it. And if there's 2, it'll just do both with 1 input. This is lame. Like, this is actually kind of cowardly. Not necessarily on the creator's part, but, like, this is a cowardly stigma that's been set towards the creating community as a whole to just not touch 2-player mode. And it bothers me because you can change this coin in 2 simple ways, and it immediately becomes a much better coin. You can keep the idea of having to do a prerequisite for this dickhead to let you through and get the coin, all that kind of stuff, that's fine, but what the level should have done is, instead of working the way it does, it should have just been a 2-player mode rhythm game minigame, to where you have to hit the notes with both inputs. It could have been completely optional, so even if you miss every single note, you still pass through, because we'll get into this later, but that would make sense with this level's gameplay. But what they could have done is, instead of this weird score thing, they could have just made it so that if you FC'd the chart, you could have gone through the coin route, so all you had to do was hit every note. I think that works significantly better. It genuinely just sucks because this coin could have been genuinely really memorable and really cool, but instead it had this weird third unnecessary prerequisite of score this specific score. And I don't know, it just feels really unnecessary. I think it would have been much better if you just hit every note and that opened up the coin route. That's, in my opinion, way more interesting. Especially when it's not that straightforward that you can even hit the notes. Like, yeah, this little anime girl pops up for a couple seconds and is like, hit the notes, but it's only up for a second, and it doesn't really give you enough time to mentally process it. So I feel like encouraging the player to actually engage with this mechanic when most people just kind of don't, I think that'd have been significantly better. Also, I will say, throughout most of the level, the character designs are fine. There is this one character that, I don't even know what the fuck's wrong with them. I mean, like, something's fucked up with their face. Kinda looks like a dog muzzle. I don't know how to describe it, but their face is just, like, elongated, and it looks super weird. I don't know what the fuck happened here. For the most part, the character designs throughout this level look alright. The movements, when there are movements, can look a little bit odd and a little stilted, but that's fine. Honestly, I think, aside of the criticisms that I presented so far, the decoration in this level is really goddamn good. Now, here's the part where I talk about this level's big problem, because yes, it does have one. The gameplay in this level kinda sucks. Now, it doesn't suck in the way a lot of levels normally would, in the sense of it's got something really infuriating that's hard to do, or it's not straightforward, it's got sight reading issues, and something just kinda pops at you and you're expected to immediately react to it, you know? It doesn't have any of, like, the traditional gameplay problems. This one has a very unique gameplay problem. It barely has any fucking gameplay. The thing that makes this level honestly kind of annoying to play is that there are jump indicators fucking everywhere, but you'll find that for most of the parts with jump indicators, and just in general most of the level, you can just kind of do nothing and you'll survive. Like, I even do it in my showcase. You'll just look at this chunk of footage. I'm not doing anything for most of this. Like, there might be 1 or 2 clicks in this entire chunk of footage, but for the most part, nothing. The entirety of the swing, which has jump indicators, not only do you not have to click, but if you do, because of the invisible slopes, it can actually be pretty disorienting. I will say, though, that pretty much is all my complaints with the gameplay, and it could be significantly worse. And there are things in the gameplay that I do like. When you get past these growing pains of playing this level, it just is a legitimately fun level, and because of the energy, it feels very energetic, despite the fact that, to be honest, there are a lot of parts where you're really just not doing anything, and it is just generally fun to play this level. I also want to say a really nice touch is the end screen, which I didn't mention this earlier, but the whole, twist on this level is that everything is meant to be a comic book, which I think is a really cool aesthetic. It's honestly kind of a good way to explain the weird art style stuff, because, yeah, as I mentioned, the character designs can look pretty weird, but you can understand that with the level being themed around a comic book, because I think that makes a lot of sense. But anyway, the really nice touch that this level has is you actually have to click to flip the pages of the comic book on the end screen. It's a very small thing, but it adds to this level's charm a lot. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about the level. Now, of course, I did mention at the beginning that this level's rather controversial, but there really isn't that much to get into. It's just one of those levels, right? Levels like Rage Quit and levels like Astrolith, where the main complaint that most people seem to have is that the level cares too much about deco and doesn't care enough about gameplay. And while I do have issues with the gameplay that I've already addressed in this video, I gotta be honest, I don't think this level deserves anywhere near the hate that it gets, because it is nowhere near as bad as a lot of the other examples. Like Rage Quit, right? Rage Quit gets a lot of hate because, well, the gameplay is fine and the decoration looks amazing. At the end of the day, the gameplay's just stereo madness. It's boring, it's bland, and there's nothing special about playing it. But Abducted's gameplay, well, yeah, it has problems that I've already mentioned. The gameplay in this level is not bad. It's completely playable, and dare I say, it's kind of fun. I don't think that this fits into that camp of levels where the gameplay is just a complete afterthought, because it's definitely not. The creator definitely cares about the gameplay with this level. In general, I think Abducted is a fantastic level. Well, yes, obviously, as I've made it clear up to this point, it does have some room to improve, especially in the gameplay department, and while I really do think they dropped the ball with the coin with this level, I still think it's fantastic, and, well, just because it has things it could improve on doesn't mean it's not good. I think that, as an overall package, it is a good level. I'm gonna give Abducted a 9 out of 10. And with that all being said, what do you guys think of the level? I know this level's rather controversial, so I'd be genuinely interested to hear what you guys have to say in the comments. Just remember to keep it civil, and just explain why you dislike things. Healthy criticism, that's what I look for on this channel, and, yeah. That being said, thank you all for watching. Feel free to follow me on Blue Sky. I've been trying to make more of an effort to post over there, and yeah, that's all I really have to say, so thank you for watching.